Hello and good afternoon. Class, we're going to be learning how to highlight and different highlighting techniques that you can practice today. But before we start, we have to make sure that we mix our lightener that we're going to be using. So I am going with some bleach, the BW2. I am going to go with the 30 volume developer just to help our mannequin process. I already have my scoop. So the scoop is going to give you about half an ounce. So I'll put that in my little measurer. I did pour my developer in my measuring cup so I can just add it in, and then you would mix that. If you feel like the consistency is still too thick, you can go ahead and add a little bit more of the developer if you feel like you need it. And I'll show you right now what a good consistency should look like. Okay, so you just want to mix that. Make sure that you're ready to start highlighting before you mix. Remember that any color and liner starts oxidizing as you mix. And as I mix, I can see that my consistency looks pretty good. Okay, and you can kind of see there the consistency. It'll kind of look like frosting that you've melted for a minute. Not a minute, that's too long, but that you've actually just kind of put a couple seconds in there. So it'll be kind of creamy. Okay, so now that I've got my mixture ready, I've got my foils, I've got my highlighting comb, my mannequin is already sectioned off. Now when you're sectioning off your client, you always want to make sure that you're asking them about where they part their hair. You want those highlights to fall kind of naturally over the part. I just went ahead and did it right down the middle. I did a little rectangle, and then just from the top to the side of the ear, down the center, and then one more. So I did 4 all the way around, and then just a little square on top. That'll be the last section that I start with. So I'm gonna go ahead and start on my side. I am gonna do different types of placements just so that you can see the end result. So I'll start on the side. Usually when you're highlighting, you want to start in the back just so that if the process has completed, you've reached the light level of lightness that you want to get to, you can rinse the back out, and if the sides and top need a little bit more time, you can leave them in and let them keep processing, and while still taking out what needs to come out so it doesn't over process the hair. So the first thing I'm going to do is anytime I'm working along the hairline here, I want it to look more naturally, so just know that if I go in with a horizontal placement, you're going to be able to see the highlights a little bit more dimensional. You'll be able to see them come out more. You could go vertically, more up and down, and that will have the illusion going longer. But I'm going to go in and add a more of a diagonal just because I want it to look more natural. There's no harsh lines along the hairline. When they pull it back, they'll still see some lightness, but it just won't be so it won't be such a dominant line. If your client prefers that, like if they pull their hair back and they actually want to see it, by all means go in at more of a horizontal. That will benefit them. So I've taken out about an inch subsection here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subdivide that subsection. So I'll subdivide that, and you've got enough hair if you can see through your hand. Okay, so you don't want your section to be so thick that you can't really see through your hand. So just kind of remember that. You're gonna just subdivide that, and it should be nice and thin. Okay, once I've subdivided my section out, now I'm gonna go in and we're gonna do different sizes of highlights just so that you can see the end result. But what I like to do is I'll just take my highlighting comb, and I'm gonna just go around in little circles. So I'll just take my hand and just create those little circles with it. Now the closer to the root that you get, the smaller or more fine the highlight will be. If you come out to the middle, it'll be a little bit more of a medium weave. And if you come out a little bit further towards the end, it'll be a thicker weave. So just to kind of demonstrate that, and this is all with the circular motion. So I'm gonna just go around circles, just really small circles, and I'm not gonna go any bigger. So I'll drop the hair that doesn't come out as I do that, and you can see that's a really fine highlight. So the highlights are going to be really thin, and they're going to be very blended. If you come out a little bit further, it'll give you more of a medium weave. Same circle size. I'm not doing anything different, and it's gonna give me, so I'll take what's on top of the comb, drop everything underneath the comb, and you can see that my highlight is gonna be a little bit thicker. If I go in with a little bit further out towards the end, same thing, not going any bigger, you'll get more of a chunkier highlight. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do different sections, different sizes, so that you can see the end result. This one's gonna be my thin one, so I'm gonna be right up at the root with my little circle technique. Another thing that I want to point out is, as you're getting your foil, remember that there's a matted side and a glossy side to your foil, and that you want to make sure that you're keeping the matted side inside, so it can help keep the heat inside, so that your client's hair will process a little bit more even. So I'm going to take my comb, or the tail of my comb, I'm going to flip or create a little tab on my foil, flip it out. You can see I'm flipping it out on my glossy side. Here's my matted side. I'm going to lift the hair up and place my highlight, place my foil right underneath the section. Then I'll bring that section down, okay? I'll slip my comb out. I'm gonna keep my comb in my hand. So I'm gonna cup it with my index finger, my ring finger, my pinky, and my thumb. And I'm gonna grab my lightener. So as I grab my lightener, I'm gonna go in and start to allow the product to kind of attach itself to the foil, so that now it's you know, they're attached together. It's not gonna be slipping or sliding. So I can take my hand and put it underneath to create a board. So as I continue to put my lightener on, I have some stability under my foil. I'll also turn my brush upside or vertically before I grab more product, and just make sure that I'm working that bleach into, you know, the back side of the hair. Sometimes you'll put just on top, and when you take your foils out, the bottom part didn't get any liner. So you want to take that brush and kind of spread the hair out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in right at the root area and just kind of feather the lightener so that I can get all the way to the root. I don't really want to grab more product, just because I don't want to put too much product on that root area. Now, if you still have some ends that might need a little bit more lightener, go ahead and grab a little bit more. If your hair falls longer than the foil, you can use your comb to twist that hair around to get it on that foil, and then you can just continue applying your lightener. Okay, once you've got it on your root, you've got it all the way through, you've spread your product, you'll go ahead and take your foil and you'll just wrap it right on top. Okay, I'm gonna take my comb and just make sure that I don't have any slippage coming off of that, that my foil's not slipping from the hair. And then I'm going to just tuck the ends in to create a little pocket. I want to point out that I'm not going to smash at all. I want to leave a little bit of room in my packet so that the bleach has room to expand. So you never want to squash it. You want to leave a little bit of room so that it can expand. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to go ahead and take about an inch subsection. I'm going at a diagonal, and you can see there it's not straight, it's more of a diagonal. Flip the rest of the hair out of the way. Take my section and then subdivide it. So I'll take about half an inch out, right? Take half my section, go in. Remember, we're doing the fine highlights right here on the side. So you should have a lot of really small, little small weaves. Again, the matted side goes out. I'm gonna create my little flap, pick the hair up, like over directed. Let me readjust my camera. So I'm gonna pick the hair up, and then I'll bring that hair down. So you can see that my hand and the hair is allowing the pressure to hold that foil nice and tight. So I can slip my comb out, grab some product. I'm gonna put some lightener on just to kind of stabilize that together, and then I'm gonna work it through. Okay, I'm gonna turn my brush vertically, get that root area so I can get it nice and as close to the root as I can. Make sure I get the lightener on the back just by spreading that product out. And then if I need a little bit more for the ends, go ahead and grab some more. Okay, and then one more time. I'm gonna fold that in half so they'll meet on the other side. I normally will I go a little bit over the flap just so that I can go underneath if I need to. If there's any slippage going on throughout the process, you can use that little flap to get to push that hair up a little bit. Okay, so one more time. Over direct the hair up, place that foil down, bring that hair down, slide your comb out, and put your product on. Go vertically with your brush, get all that product through, and then once you've worked your product through, with whatever's left on your brush, brush that onto the root area. Now remember, because you are using a higher volume developer, you do not want to take too long on putting the foils in, because that hair will turn. It is processing, so just remember, you want to work faster the higher the developer that you go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start on the back. Back here, I'm going to take horizontal subsection, so I'm going to go just straight across. If your client wears her hair up in a ponytail, you want to make sure that you get some highlight. So sometimes you can just take that section and highlight it around the hairline, so that when they pull it up into a ponytail, they can see their highlights very nicely. But again, if you're going in horizontally, you're going to naturally create those little lines in the hair anyway. So just kind of remember to keep the hairline in mind as you're working. So I've taken out about 1 inch in subsection, and I'm going to subdivide that in half. In this section, I'm going to go, instead of going with the fine weave, I'm going to come out towards that middle of the mid shaft, and then I'm going to do the same little circles and go with more of a medium weave. Okay, so you're going to see the difference between going really small in the weaves and going a little bit thicker. And then the next section we'll do more of a chunky, and then we'll finish off on the opposite side with more of a slice, so that you can see just as it's processing, or when it's done processing, kind of the difference between it. So again, I'm going to over direct the hair down, up, put my foil right underneath, slide my comb out. I'm still hanging on to my comb at all times. Put my lightener on that kind of middle area. If you see that your foil starts to slide, just kind of push it back up and hold it in place. And when you're done and ready to pack it, you can always push it back into place with your comb, which is why we leave a little bit of the flap on the back side. Okay, so again, I'm going to fold it over just a little bit over the section. I'm going to just lift it so that I can push it. I personally do that just to make sure and ensure that the foil is as close to that root as it can get. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my next section. Now remember that when you're playing with foils, or not playing, but when you're using foils, you can really do just about any kind of technique on them. You can go highlight, you can switch the next color into a low light. If you want to add more red, you can. There's so many things that you can do. It doesn't have to be just a certain color. So if you notice, I did my weave towards the middle. That's going to give me more of a middle weave. And then on the next section, we'll do a larger weave. Go back in right at that root area. And you can see that everything else is really similar. The only difference is the size of the weave that I'm using. Okay, make sure you get it all the way through the ends as well. And then get your foil in there. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of push that down just to make sure I get it right on that. And then just one more. Again, right at that middle, little circles is what I'm doing, so I'm just little circles. Over direct that up, then bring it down, get my foil in there, get my lightener on. Okay, one more time, just slide that up and then pack it. okay? Okay, on this other side of my back, I'm gonna go ahead and go in with more of a chunky highlight, just so that you can kind of see the difference. I'm just gonna push that foil out of the way. So I'm gonna get my inch out, subdivide that. I'm gonna come further out towards the end, again, doing the same little circles. So I'm gonna have a bigger weave. So you can see my chunks are gonna be bigger. Okay, and again, everything else is very similar. I lift up, bring that hair down, hang on to it nice and tightly. Lift it, or put my lightener on, turn my brush vertically, and then work my way up to that root area. Gonna go a little bit over that foil, the bottom foil, and then push that up. I want you to notice that I'm not, maneuvering my foil too much to where it's getting crinkled or anything like that. You should be able to finish with nice, clean foils as you work your way through the head. So again, I'm going to drop an inch, subdivide that out, go for further down the ends, little circles to give me my chunkier pieces. You can always weave up and down and pick the size if you feel more comfortable that way. This is just a faster way that I learned to get my different sizes. Okay, and so everything else stays the same except for where your weaving, or where your little circles are picking up, where you're picking up the little circles at. So if you go close to the root, it's gonna be smaller. If you go towards the middle, it'll be more of a middle weave, and if you go towards the end, it'll be bigger. Now, I did get a little bit of bleach on her hair, so you wanna just kind of keep an eye on that, and just clean it if you see it. If you leave it processing, it is going to create a, what we call little hot spots, and so you'll have a little bleach area where you don't want it to be bleached. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the last section, which is the front. And what we're gonna do in the front is we're going to go in with more vertical. So instead of going horizontally or diagonally, I'm gonna take my sections vertically, and I am gonna just slice it. So I'm not gonna do any kind of weaving, and the illusion that it's gonna give you, it's gonna elongate that highlight coming all the way through. This is really good for people who have thin hair, so that it doesn't start to kind of fade away towards the bottom. That highlight goes nice and through, solid all the way through. Okay, so all I'm gonna do is just, instead of going horizontally, I'm gonna take my section up and down. Okay, and you can see my section there. I'm gonna take, so I've taken out about an inch, and I'm gonna subdivide that in half. You can do vertically anywhere on the head. It doesn't have to be on the sides. We're just trying the different techniques so that you can see for yourself what the end result will be, and you can design any kind of highlighting technique that you want. So I'm going to put my foil down, and you can see it's really nice and thin. I can see the foil going through. I can see the foil through the hair, and everything else pretty much stays the same. So I'll put my lightener on. And again, if you want a more defined look, the highlighting with the vertical or more of a slice is gonna give you that more dramatic look. And I'm gonna go to that root because it's still important, and I'm turning my brush vertically and just kind of working that product all the way through that root. Only difference is I'm not feathering, I'm still feathering, but I'm not only doing certain pieces, I'm doing the whole section. And and then I'll go ahead and still fold the same way. Okay, so the only big difference when you're doing vertically is that instead of going horizontally or diagonally, you're taking it vertically, so from top to bottom. So again, I'm going to subdivide about an inch out. Now remember that wherever you put bleach, you're going to see that hair being lighter. So you want to kind of visualize where it is that you're going to be putting the highlight. So that's the main objective of this project, is so that you can kind of just see what happens when you do different kinds of weaves on the hair. Okay, and with whatever product I have left, I'm gonna just work it right up at that root area. Make sure you get those ends in. If it's longer than the foil, fold it up a little bit higher, flip it so that you can push it. Always look to make sure that you don't have any bleach on that bottom section, that you didn't have any bleeding, or that you don't have any bleeding on top, and then you just fold it. Okay, so that's your vertical, and you can work that all the way to the front. Now on the top, depending on what kind of end result you want, if you want more natural, I always go in at more of a diagonal. If you want it to be more defined, like you want to see the highlights, but you still want it to blend in, I would go more horizontal, work my way up. If you want it to be like where it actually stands out and it's more of the stripes, you would do more of your slices. So you would just slice it horizontally. You can slice vertically, it'll still stand out but still blend in. So on the top, I'm gonna give you the freedom to, you know, just kind of use any technique that you feel comfortable with and you want to play with. So you can do more of a chunky, you can do more of the fine weave, the middle weave. You can go horizontally, work your way up. You can go diagonally, work your way up. You can do a slice, however you want to do it, but you get to play with the top so that you can see when it falls and opens up kind of the end result. Okay, so have fun with highlighting. And